lounge lizard music, man.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Sci-Fi Distilled. It's another Make Me Watch. This time they made me watch.
We made Rizzo watch. Kent and I made Rizzo watch. Let me get the comments up here.
So we are doing the Space Battleship Yamato, or Yamato, however you want to pronounce it. If you're not familiar with that, that is the 2010 live action version of what we in America knew as Star Blazers, which was an anime, which I believe it was still called in Japan, actually was Starship or Star Battleship, Space Battleship Yamato.
Space Battleship Yamato.
So,
Yeah.
But of course they Americanized it and called it Star Blazers. I remember it as a kid as a cartoon, but I really don't remember the cartoon. I just remember that.
Oh, you don't remember? Okay, I was wondering about that.
I mean, I remember watching it, but I couldn't tell you anything about what happened. It was like a one pass type thing.
Really?
You know, and
I watched it every day after school.
That thing was imprinted in my brain. Like I couldn't get enough of it.
Never a huge anime fan. I mean, I watched some of the stuff, but never got, let's face it, it's a little strange. Oh yeah, we got to do our drink.
Let's do our drink first, and then we're gonna hit it. Cause I
feel
like I've got a lot to say, and I don't know where to start. I don't have sake.
So hang on, let's go to.
Where is my drink? Oh,
We'll put up our drink today. Hang on, I'm slow today. I'm slow. There it is, sake. Sake. If you haven't had that, it's a clear, basically rice wine. Properly served, it should be 98.7 degrees.
Yes, although it can be served.
I am not drinking that today.
I am not either.
I didn't have any.
Got a wee little, just gonna.
But cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
Salud.
Cheers. Kampai. I have to say, Dave Lafredo, that was a fantastic idea you had for the Cosmo DNA. I don't know why we didn't think of that, but oh well.
Because we're just not that clever, see?
We're not that clever. But the sake fits too, because the doctor
was
a functioning alcoholic, yes, which of course they completely, for kids, for the American children, must protect little ears. But yes, the doctor was a functioning alcoholic. So her depiction of her running around with a sake and a cat was fairly accurate.
That's what I'm saying. There's so weird. And so watching this film, because it clearly was, it's a Japanese film made for Japanese audiences, dubbed into English. I kept that in the back of my head the whole time, that this was not made for the Western audiences or American audiences especially, but
right.
And I know, Marybeth, you had told me that you were kind of thought that the dub didn't really work or fit right. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought for the most part I thought that it was clear, and but you're right, it's a little quirky and corny at times, because I don't think the Japanese language translates to English very well completely. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it
translates. So
grammatically, it's quite different.
Yeah, and I think but so I've seen this movie like 3 times just in the past couple weeks now. I watched it twice with the English dub, and then I watched it with the subtitles. There are a few minor differences with the subtitles, but nothing meaning-wise, nothing that's going to change the whole movie. But hearing them say it in
the story's not terribly complex anyway.
No, it's not a complex story. But hearing them say it in their Japanese, but it's, you know what? It's still kind of melodramatic. It's just, on a scale of Walter Cronkite to telenovela, they're pushing the telenovela end of the scale.
Yep.
I guess, from
that's a good way to put it.
From a sheerly entertainment point of view, I actually liked it. I found it entertaining. I thought the visual effects were good. CGI stuff was pretty good. It's 10 years old now.
Yep.
The story was okay. It kind of was reminding me like of a video game story in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like I should have been somehow had a controller in my hand and playing this.
In a lot of ways, yes. So just super quick background. I think everyone watching is familiar, but just in case someone stumbles across this video and they are not familiar, super quick. This thing debuted in '74. It is a beloved Japanese cartoon. The main gist of it is the bad guys, the Gamelons, bombard the Earth with radiation bombs because they're going to terraform and take it over anyway, so they don't care what's going on the surface. Bombard the Earth, make the surface uninhabitable. The people flee underground. And then along comes a message of hope from a planet called Iskandar, where they say, hey, here's blueprints for a gun and an engine. Come get this device that'll get rid of the radiation. I forget what they say about the bad guys. And if they send blueprints for guns and engines, why don't they send blueprints for things that remove radiation? I don't know. And so off they go. And that's the general premise. They are trying to cram like 26 episodes into 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they included a lot. There were a ton of little details in there that I was like, okay, you know what? Westerners would have skipped over that. Like Westerners would have cut that out to keep the story going.
I think that's very accurate. You know, that's a good point, because I think it's, again, that's the way that they, you know, the cultural differences where we would think
the Japanese would have rebelled if they'd skipped some of that stuff. I think they would have had a rebellion.
Yeah, I think
because
it would not. Yeah. Beloved cartoon. Like they love Yamato, and it has many iterations and reincarnations. And there's Yamato first season, second season, and the 2 and the 3, and Farewell Yamato, which is usually under Arrivederci Yamato, and then Be Forever Yamato, and then Yamato 2199, and then a bunch of other Yamato. Like it's Yamato all day, every day there. So Yamato 2199 actually translated super well. They gender swapped a lot of the characters, and they brought it up to a little more modern standards of behavior.
I was curious about that.
It was it's quite good. I started rewatching it when we started talking about Yamato, and it all the space scenes are done CGI in the anime. All the space scenes are done CGI. All the animation is your standard Japanese. The girls have big eyes. The guys have funky haircuts. The captain got the beard, and he's very gruff, and that show set the archetype for so many anime that followed it.
Yes.
The fact that you've got the cocky pilot who's better at everything else than anybody. You've got the
pilot captain kind of.
Yep, the pilot and captain argue. The captain is a grizzled veteran who's war weary but he's got stern authority. The doctor is a wacko always. There's a science guy with glasses.
There's
I mean,
what we called IQ9, they called Analyzer.
Yep.
He plays a bigger role in the cartoon.
Much bigger role in the cartoon. He was the comic relief for a lot of stuff.
I'll just point out that characters like IQ9 and 7 Quark 7 from Battle of the Planets, they were all around long before R2D2. Like it was, they were first, and then came R2D2. But the archetype is there.
And I think Lucas was channeling that.
Yeah.
Well, probably to some degree, certainly. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he you know, everything comes from something else. It always seems like, you know,
right. And they say he stole from World War II films. He also stole
from the Hidden
straight
Fortress.
from Star Blazers.
Oh yeah. You stole from a bunch of stuff, yeah. But that's the story of. But I mean, this movie then took cues from. By then, the Battlestar reboot was out, and I think this movie took a bunch of cues from it.
Yep.
So, you know, so I'm going to take a second to say hello to everyone tuning in. We've got Roy and Phil and Bruce and probably the Sue half of John and Sue. Martin is here. Let's see who else. I thought I saw that Dean popped in. Hi, Dean. How you doing? I'm just seeing who's saying what over here on the. Was it Star Blazers or Robotech? Phil is asking that ran before STTNG. Both. Both of these came out. Like I feel like these were in the States by early, if not 79, early 80s. I think.
79, 80, I think, because I remember my family didn't have cable. But after school, I went to a friend's house until my mom got off work to pick us up and everything. And they had cable, and that's where I was exposed to it. And that was before we moved to New York. So that would have been 79, 80.
Yeah.
Because I moved here in 81. So.
Yeah. Phil says it's not just a space opera. Yeah, this thing was my first exposure to a serial cartoon, like a story that the story continued, and not like, you know, Scooby-Doo where it was just monsters.
Right, and that's something that we never saw even in the United States as kids of story. They were always just episodic. You know, there was, of course,
standalone episodes.
Scooby-Doo was always the same story, but
this and Robotech were probably my first exposure. Which, speaking of Robotech, somebody either in the comments or maybe Kent will remember. In this movie, they have our hero Kodai go and save the girl Yuki
by having her eject out, and he flips his plane into what I would call Guardian. Those of you who watch Robotech.
Gundam mode.
Yeah, kind of
Mode. Yeah, and I have zero memory of the Star Blazer ships doing that. I thought that was strictly Robotech. Can somebody jog my memory?
That was Robotech. They didn't do it in the original series, but they do in 2199, I think.
Oh,
So
do
they may have taken
Okay.
it from 2199.
Okay, so that was like a total.
And it was only his
nod
fighter.
right there.
His fighter's the only
his
one.
fight. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he did say that his Cosmo, whatever it was called, Cosmo Flyer or whatever the hell it was called. Yeah,
Cosmo Zero,
yeah, Cosmo Zero, because he was going to.
because the Zeros were the Japanese planes in World War II.
It's one of the it is one of the things I noted was that there's a lot of I don't know how the right word. I mean, it's like a lot of
Yeah, not
kind of
nod.
nods
I know what you
to
mean.
the Second World War. I mean, to the,
Yeah.
to the original battleship. of
Oh,
course.
absolutely.
And, you know,
in
I-
the original
I kinda got,
cartoon,
you know, a little bit of a, you know, as the American watching this, going, "Are they kidding?" It was, you know, they,
Well,
you know, they were the
more
bad
than you
guys
know,
that
in the
war.
original cartoon, they built the ship out of the bones
Right,
of the
exactly.
original
And that's why
Yamato.
it looked like a battle.
it's not just named the Yamato; it is the Yamato.
Yeah,
Right,
they found it where it sank,
Yeah.
which was now exposed because the atmosphere and the oceans have been blown away. And then they used the metal from that to build the space battle cruiser Yamato. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
So-
that's a sore point for the Japanese. They sent her out on her only mission, and the dastardly Americans sank her.
yeah. So super. I'm going to summarize. I'm going to generalize, super generalize, because I don't want to get into hot and heavy into World War II history. The Yamato was a real ship. It was for a hot second the most powerful thing on the water.
Yep.
And it was sent to defend, it was kind of at Midway, but it didn't do anything. It was sent to defend Okinawa. Its mission was pretty much defend Okinawa or die. I mean, it was kind of a one-way mission. They said if you don't stop them from the water, beach the ship and fight them on the land. So
Yeah.
this was kind of a one-way mission. And so I think when he evokes the old Yamato in that speech at the end of the movie, he is also kind of evoking the concept this could be a one-way mission, and indeed it is for most of the landing party.
Yeah.
So that's where I think, you know,
I have a hard time separating the movie, the live action movie, from the original Yamato, which is clouded up in my head, and 2199. There's all those iterations are so close that I remembered a scene distinctly from 2199, but then it showed up in the live action, and I'm like,
yeah, beat for beat.
Huh.
The scene where the captain dies and he says, "Doctor, could you leave me?" And the doctor, and right at the door, when the doctor gets right to the door, the captain says, "Thank you, doctor." And then he looks at a picture and then he dies. That was almost beat for beat, shot for shot, exactly the same as the cartoon.
Yep.
And that's what I'm saying. They kept so much of that I know like Japanese audiences and the diehard fans here in the States, we were like,
we were squeeing.
we were squeeing left and right. But folks like Rizzo, who may be not familiar with it, were like, okay.
Meh.
Meh, the timing, the pacing, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I watched it pretty much. Like I said, I have no recollection of the original cartoon other than the song.
Yeah. The song is
because instead of saying
drilled into our
Yamato,
head.
they said Yar Star Blazers.
Yeah,
And that's the only thing I really remember from the cartoon. I don't know if it was just on at an odd time. I know I didn't watch it super regular. I mean, I'd seen it, but that was.
It must have been on at a weird time for you because.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was like must see TV for
I mean,
a while.
I do remember Battle of the Planets. I remember that well, and I used to watch that regularly, which originally was called G-Force.
G-Force, yeah.
And we used to watch that pretty regular. And I did watch Voltron.
Yes, Voltron was another.
You knew when the Blazing Sword came out that the episode was pretty much over.
Yeah. So,
all right,
which is true of that's also true of the wave motion gun.
Yeah.
When the wave motion gun comes out,
although they used it right at the
it's
time.
going to happen.
Well, when the wave motion. So here's this gun, which is pretty powerful. It's
They built a ship around it.
like the Death Star.
So what cracks me up about this gun, this amazingly powerful gun, is it has a gun trigger, but it's not like you can aim it. You have to move the entire ship. And this thing is so powerful powerful and has such an area of effect that you just kind of need to aim the ship in the general direction.
Why
Why
did he need to count down every time?
Yeah,
he was
and the
gonna fire?
countdown,
Or
and announce
just
that
shoot
we're
the damn thing.
120%, and then we're gonna count down.
But then he's
Well,
like, "You're ready to
because-
shoot." He's like, "Okay, 10, 9." It's like, just shoot the thing.
Shoot it.
So the conceit is the Iskandarians didn't send the plans for the gun. They just sent the plans for the engine.
And we figured out the gun.
We perverted it into a weapon.
Fascinating. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I think
how did I
at
miss
least
that?
according to
We
the
did.
movie, that's what I got from it.
Yeah. All right. That's
We perverted
fascinating.
it into a weapon and figured out how to make it shoot stuff. And it was like,
It-
oh,
I mean, as a plot device, it's fantastic. You have to charge this thing up. You can't just fire it whenever. You got to charge it up, and then once it's fired, you got to rest time in between before
Yeah.
it can recharge.
That's-
So-
which they carried into the Babylon 5.
Yeah, I mean that's like the sci-fi crutch of any super weapon.
Of
It
any
always
super
has
weapon,
Achilles heel is that it can't
Yeah.
be just fired nonstop. You know, Death Blossom.
But I mean, the
One
ship
shot
as
at
a whole, it was pretty bad. I mean, she was armed to the teeth. She had her
Yeah.
little, her
All
her
those
tires.
turrets.
Yeah, she had all those
The
guns that
turrets.
she had all those big. What were they like? I don't know.
I loved seeing them moving around and doing.
That's how they
18-inch
were on a real
guns.
battleship. I mean, that's
Oh, yeah,
that was
It
definitely
was a
ripped right
battle.
off. I mean, that's how a real battleship
Yeah.
worked. I mean, with those big guns. But
And, honestly, she's a beautiful ship. Like there were a couple really good beauty shots. I know we can get to the CGI later, but there were a couple really great beauty shots of that thing, and it's a beautiful ship.
things that never made sense in the design, and this is just being practical, was what was that third bridge that they eventually got lost? It was hanging
They
down.
had to shoot off.
I mean, exactly.
Because-
It was like a plot device. Like we got to
A
put this
ship,
thing
a
hanging.
real ship
Nope.
wouldn't have a third bridge.
Because in the cartoon, they crash onto a water planet one time. They invert the ship, and that sticks up out of the water, and that's their bridge for that.
Interesting.
So
She's
they
a sub,
designed
too.
the ship just in case they crash on a
Just
water.
in case.
Well, that's why it's got a
sub,
hull
it's
shape
everything.
that way. They can still land in water and cruise around as a cruiser.
But then they still got this thing hanging down all the way down like a keel.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like a
Not gonna
keel.
convince me. I'm
And
a sailor.
The second thing from the top, on the top of the ship, is the captain's quarters.
Yeah.
The captain's quarters are in a big bubble.
Oh, is that what that was? I always wondered about that.
Anybody would. I mean, if we want to go, we got to bring Star Trek into it because we have to. But I mean, why would you put even on the Enterprise? Why would you put the bridge right in the most vulnerable part of the ship, which
In the center of a big target.
Place it right on top where they can. It's an easy target.
Because
So-
you can see, because on a real battleship, so you can see your.
Because
your own
on a
gun.
real battleship, the bridges are placed for exactly, and there's different actually bridges. There's different.
Yeah,
bridges on the ship.
There's,
Well, there's a CIC and then there's the bridge.
There's a captain's bridge. There's usually an admiral flag bridge. I mean, there's more than just one place where they will be able to look out. But it makes practical
well, I mean,
sense.
Got it
looks
finished.
good, Kent. Looks good. But I mean,
Well,
look,
maybe
guys,
ship it makes
they
practical
were playing, as it was, they were playing fast and loose with like.
I know. I
naval
just
regulation.
found
mean,
it funny.
Physics.
I'm like, it's
This
almost
guy
like a
is
plot
basic.
device because we just
This
had to have that
guy-
one little piece that we didn't really
Yeah, naval regulation was not high on their list of worries. Like this guy re-enlists and he's a squadron leader and he's a bridge officer. Like that's not how a re-enlistment.
Yeah, it's usually one or the other, not both.
need. Then all of a sudden, he's all his problems and he makes him basically his XO.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
that's not
acting
how the
command, then he's
military
acting
that's not how
captain,
that works. Anyway, I found it, but otherwise, I do like the design of the ship overall.
I love the design, and she's
I
recognized.
just don't like the little dangly bridge part.
Yeah, if there's silhouettes of ships, all kinds of ships, people are gonna pick out the Enterprise, and they're probably gonna be able to pick out Yamato.
Yeah.
Yamato.
And the
Um,
Battlestars.
It's, yeah, the Battlestars kind of all blur into a shape.
It's unique. There's no question about
It's
it.
unique.
And it's been around a while. I mean, the first thing when I first saw it, not knowing anything, like when I was a kid and I saw it, I said, "That's a battleship.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a battleship."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
And
then
then
you
you
find
go,
out about the
"That's cool,
enormous
right?"
world raping gun on the front of it.
world raping.
Let's be diplomatic here.
Oh, sorry.
On our
PG-13.
international episode.
It could take out a big ship. I don't know if it's a planet.
Oh yeah, it's a
No,
planet killer.
it was a planet killer. It was like having the Death Star in the muzzle of your ship.
It didn't shatter the planet into pieces, but it put a hole through the center of it and killed all the atmosphere and everything.
Yeah.
Wow, that's handy to have, I suppose.
It did it in the cartoon. I don't know what they didn't use it
They only used it like
That
twice.
way, yeah, they
No,
didn't
like,
use it
the
that
only
way.
thing they just got the 2 ships, I think, is all they used it for in the movie, right? They only fired it
Right.
twice.
But
They fired it right at the
in
very
every
beginning.
episode, when they're up against, and
It
again,
would
this is the
fire.
cartoon, but
Yeah.
in every episode, they're up against another fleet or a group of fighters, or somebody's hiding behind a moon, and they wipe out whatever's in their way with that gun and move
Yeah.
on to the next episode.
And they move on, yeah. Just and before we'll talk about the characters, we're going to talk about the CGI, but just really quick, can I just say the cartoon? Every episode at the very end, they'd say, "Hurry, Star Blazers! There's only 124 days left, or Earth only has 124 days left." And then the next
Right.
week, 123 days, and it was like this constant countdown, and it just gave it this sense of like urgency.
You know what reminds me? That reminds me of the body count on Battlestar, when they've got the number of people, the number of survivors on the board.
Yeah.
So Battlestar. So since we're talking about it, Battlestar, I feel like there were a lot of nods, not nods, but like kind of conceptual ideas that they may have kind of taken, but it worked because like the render, like the way they created the bridge, like you saw the bridge and it wasn't like the Enterprise bridge where everything was like like a touch screen. It was buttons and knobs,
Buttons
and there
and
were
switches.
wires and hoses and things and papers. And when the thing tilted, oh yeah, well, that's the other thing I gotta ask you guys about. When it tilted, stuff went sliding down the tables, which meant they actually tilted this bridge
Well,
on
they
like
clearly didn't have any inertial dampeners.
no dampeners. But the one time when they're coming in the planet, okay, maybe there's gravity on the planet, so sure, why not? But when they are in space and they rolled, there shouldn't.
Well, if they had artificial gravity,
it should have just been still gravity. Only we're this way. We're still. It just seems upright to us.
yeah, you're kind of slicing it thin, but okay. I mean, you're buying the fact that it's a battleship flying through space, but I mean,
Right. I have to mention
there's no reason it
kind of
shouldn't.
artificial gravity. They were walking.
Well, I assume they had
was
artificial
floating.
gravity. Obviously, they had to have, otherwise they would have been.
Right.
Did you just look at Dennis's comment?
Which one, Hostin?
BSG and Split? Which one?
Can next week's episode be about Kent's beard?
Yes. Next week's episode will just be
He's
about
trying to be a pirate, folks.
Norsemen and
Yarr.
Vikings and how they wore their beards. Stay tuned, guys, on SciFi.
Handling his inner Klingon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So back to Battlestar. So like they kind of had that look. Their battles in space kind of sort of had that Battlestar look. The bridge had that mix of technology and old school stuff. That mixed look about it.
That is what I loved about the 2004 Battlestar Galactica, because they had that mix.
But like he'd get the phone and he'd be like Battlestar.
sound-powered
I like that
telephone.
when he picked that up and he
You're
would go,
like-
this is Galactic actual. I mean, there were so many little things in there. You're just
And I
waiting
know
for a
what-
guy to
I
do
know-
this and crank on the thing,
Well,
you know,
yeah,
to get the engine room.
yeah.
Little things like that. I just
And I get that it was
The
so
analog
the
clock.
Cylons wouldn't like intercept their communications or
they,
whatever,
like
but
they had an analog clock on the
yeah, they
bridge.
had an analog
I
clock.
mean, it was just I
It
loved
was
it.
like this close to being steampunk.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I had a long conversation with Doug Drexler about it because he did a lot of design work on that show, and I said I love that fact that they had this like old and new technology mixed. Anyway, we're off topic, but I
That's
do like I
okay.
know what you're saying.
Anyway.
I like that they did that a little bit. Yeah, I thought the interior of the ship was fairly believable.
It looked cool.
I thought it was
Bridge
well
looked
done.
cool.
I was noting to myself was that they did put a lot of money into it. I mean, the sets and stuff like that. You know,
Well, because they know they have a built-in audience.
Yeah, and they have to get it right.
It was clearly a blockbuster for Japan. You know,
Yeah.
like would have been our version of a Avengers movie or something.
Yeah,
Or their version
or-
of Avengers.
yeah.
You know, like
Money. Speaking of money and where the money went, the lead actor dude guy, whose name I can tell you, or maybe I can't. Yes, I can. The guy playing Kodai, or what we knew as Wildstar, was Takuya Kimura, and they filmed, and it went into post, and he saw some of the CGI work and some of the VFX work. And then he went off and saw Avatar. And he came back and he said to the director, whose name is Yamakaze, I think, he's like, we need to we got to step up. Like, we've got to step up and redo it. And he actually gave up a portion of his salary and said, here, take the money and put it toward the effects so that the effects could be better.
Nice.
So we owe him. Good choice. You made the right decision. It looked awesome right up till the end when there were all those things attacking. That bit started looking a little weird. Like they
Cave.
yeah, in the cave. But a lot like there was a shot where this ship is just fire, like just guns a-blazing, firing from every port, like from all sides, and it just looked so cool.
So
That looked
good.
awesome.
And the fighters, they moved well through space.
Fighters moved well too. Yes.
They did a combination of swoops and stuff, but they also behaved the way the ships in Babylon 5 did. They could flip, continue moving ass forward, and shoot back behind themselves.
So they got the physics right.
Bum that the his little computer guy got trashed.
I analyzed it. Yes, and it would have made more impact if we'd actually been seeing and communicating with that thing throughout the whole film, and then it dies at the end. But instead, it was a handheld, which it wasn't in any of the cartoons. It was a proper robot. The head looked like it looked when it finally turns around. It's red and it has 3 fins, and it was a proper robot, and it would roll around and do things. And so you got to know it pretty well. But in this thing, it wasn't even there. However, I am told the voice actor was the same voice actor that did the cartoon.
Sounded similar, yeah.
Yeah. The Japanese voice actor. I do not know anything about the American, what the English was doing for that.
So overall, Rizzo, is that a keeper, or is that something you want to add to your library, or is that a one and done?
I wouldn't go out and buy it. It's kind of I'd say it's kind of a one and done.
I would, because for the history.
I don't need to rewatch it. It's like I compartment. It was entertaining. I don't consider it bad. It just it falls into one of those movies for me that's just, it was a movie. I watched it for 2 hours. It was okay. It was good. I enjoyed it. I don't feel like I wasted my time, but it's not something that was endeared to at any level. Maybe if I had been more into the cartoon as a kid, I might feel differently, but
which is I think why I feel that I definitely want to own it.
I think it was. I think the production value on it was great. I mean, I don't think it was cheap. I've seen some other live action versions that Japanese took a cartoon and made into live action on their end, and they were kind of not so good.
Avatar, Airbender.
Yeah.
Well, Airbender was bad. Gotcha Man was.
There was
bad.
even some worse ones than that, Kent. And they were just weird tentacle aliens and that kind of thing, and which is very Japanese. But they just didn't translate to the live action. Maybe it was because the visual effects weren't very good at the time when they made them. But so I think from that standpoint, I think this is done really well. Like I said, I found it entertaining. Really? Some of the jokes were actually funny.
So did the jokes fall okay on Western ears, because it was already kind of melodramatic? Some of the stuff fell strangely onto Western ears, I think. I'm used to it because I am into Japan.
Well, I think it's somehow it's in the translation. It doesn't come through from Japanese to English as well. I think, I kind of told you, like, if you ever played with Google Translate, go and type something in and have it translated to Japanese, and then it translate it back to English, and it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Yeah,
it's not the same thing. So like his little crew, like when they all come, he's sitting there with Shima in the cafeteria, and his little band of merry men, or whatever the heck, they all come wandering in. They got, like, that's your comic relief right there. And I was watching it, and I was like, okay, are they getting this? Are they getting that this is the comic relief?
One thing, this is not on the comedy, but as you're talking about that little band, the fighter crew there,
jocks,
the squadron, I did think their uniforms were pretty good. I liked the uniforms. I liked her uniform
directly from the cartoon.
I liked her uniform the best. She had the best color combo. I didn't really care for the white so much, but I thought the yellow, and was it yellow and black, or yellow and blue or something like that? I don't remember exactly what it. But
and the thing with the arrow pointing down, that was straight from the cartoon.
I thought those are pretty good looking.
Just they were okay. I didn't like the fabric, but they looked right. They looked like the
leathers. I think it was supposed to be leather like. I thought that's what I got the impression. It was supposed to be like a leather.
Yeah. So
it was almost like a motorcycle, which you'd kind of see, like, if you ever see like Japanese motorcyclists or something. It's a very similar look.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. That really sleek.
Kind of a very sleek, similar outfit. Yeah. So I did thought that was pretty good. I like the ship design. The fighter ships.
The fighter ships were cool. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of things I liked about it. It's just
Even the Gamelon ships look cool. We just don't get into it at all. Like the
they
cartoon
don't
gets
really
into
show
them so
them
much
that
more.
much.
Yeah.
And the cartoon, they draw huge parallels between the Gamelons and the Nazis.
And the Nazis, yeah.
The whole thing, from the symbols on the uniforms to their leader Deathlock.
Yeah. Well, we saw that. I think he saw that to some degree, even in Voltron. You saw that
absolutely.
same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was clearly the which is funny. I mean, you know, Japan being part of the Axis power. I mean, but I think obviously now, ultimately in modern times, they realize that they're a good bad guy. I mean, nobody ever will claim that you should make a Nazi the bad guy.
Right.
So, you know, it's the perfect bad guy, because even the Germans don't like them. So, you know,
He kind of is the perfect bad guy, yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of like that's like that. And obviously they're not going to model themselves after the Empire, you know, during the Second World War, even though they kind of were the bad guy, Japan. You know, they're not going to model. They're not going to say that. So
here's the thing: any good bad guy, they don't think they're the bad guy. They think they're the hero of this. So
of course not. The Nazis didn't see themselves as the bad guys.
No,
So
no one.
And Deathlock was sure he was a good guy.
Yeah.
Which he eventually does morph into a better guy, doesn't he? Like by the time we're at B Forever Yamato, isn't he like?
Yeah, because they found somebody bigger and badder to start fighting against.
They found the Common Empire came along, and I don't know what else happens. But eventually we had to join forces with him to fight something else. So that's where that goes.
Right.
So we got our Starbuck bad girl chick or tough chick, whatever. But then she's just there. She doesn't have to do much in the story. I mean, she does. She's actually a main plot point, but she doesn't say much about it. Or we've got Shima, who's his best friend. I liked his characterization in the cartoon a little better. We've got
well, they built up a little bit of the background with her of how she idolized him.
Yeah, and that's why she joined.
And that's why she joined, and then he quit, unbeknownst for the reasons, you know, that she didn't understand why he quit. Thought he just quit.
Shima, they should have now he was the Venture character, for those of you who keep in track. They should have fleshed that out a little bit more, that Kodai's character killed Shima's wife.
Right.
But Shima apparently bears no grudges. It was like, hey,
they did bring it up, but they didn't really.
He was on it. He was doing it too. They were flying together.
You got to remember, you have a 2-hour film, and you guys even said you're jamming an entire series into 2 hours. Yeah. Into 2 hours. So something's got to go.
Point. Yeah.
Something's got to go.
They could have done 3 movies.
Clearly, they don't have the greed of the Americans.
They need to do a live action series, is what they need to do, and just
that probably would have worked too. Although
you think they kept the sets in the ship? I don't know.
Yeah. You know, and you look at our you look at Hollywood, and you look at like how they took The Hobbit and made it into 3 movies, which was just done for financial reasons. You know, it didn't need to be 3 movies.
So I was okay with Shima, whatever. I really liked the engineer Tokugawa, which for the Americans is Orion. Really enjoyed him, and the doctor. I actually like the scene where he's in the brig and they come and sit on the floor and they're all drinking. It's like I liked that scene. That was that was like one of those really cool moments. He was cool. I like Saito as a guy, as a person. He's half Japanese. Mom is Hispanic or Latinx. So if you notice, he maybe actually did look a little different. That's why he seems cool. I wonder if he's done any English language movies.
I don't think any of them have. I
don't think any of them have either.
You'd have to look up there. Well, let's see. Let's go to the IMDb.
I looked on their IMDb's. I know the guy that played the captain, he has a pretty long IMDb, and he started on some like Kurosawa films. So he's no stranger to good cinema. Yeah, he's been in everything. So he's no stranger to good cinema. He was playing a super, super stoic. Now, Kent, okay. I was rewatching some of it. I remember our Avatar with that gruff voice. What is the 2199 Captain Okada like?
The same. He feels a great deal of remorse for having abandoned what's his name's brother.
Yeah, Kodai. No, he voluntarily.
Kodai did, but if the admiral had kept his ships in the fight, he might not have been killed. They could have all limped home instead of sacrificing one ship to save the others. He feels a great deal of remorse about that. They didn't do the huge reveal about there not really being a device. Spoiler alert.
I think that's unique to the movie because I remember that.
Yeah, that never happened in the
I
series.
think there was actually a device in the cartoon, I think.
Yeah, and Queen Starsha gives it to them, and they bring it back.
I know what it was. In this, they merged the two. They merged the Gamelons and the Iskandarians. Like they made them almost the same. Whereas in the cartoon, and they're clearly two. They're like two sister planets. They're two completely
right, but they're in the
separate.
same solar system.
Yeah, they're in the same solar system.
And they have an agreement not to attack one another.
Yeah.
But there's only a few people left on Iskandar because they had a war.
Yeah.
And Queen Starsha's there, and Desloc's in love with her.
Yeah,
So,
and they end up having a kid, I think.
Son of Desloc, yeah, something like that.
There's
always a son of Desloc. But the captain was a stoic. He it takes him a lot longer in the cartoon, obviously, to start trusting Kodai with any sort of command positions. And he doesn't die.
Oh yeah, so the ending. Let's talk about the very ending. That's not the ending of the original series. That's the ending of Farewell Yamato.
Right.
So they took the ending of another series and tacked it on. That was a little weird. Also, there's one series that ends with Captain Avatar doing that, with him running the ship, like doing the ramming movement. And I can't remember which one that is now.
You sure that's not Farewell Yamato?
No, maybe it was Farewell and it was the captain, but I thought there was one where Wildstar did it.
Oh.
Maybe I'm getting them all mixed up because they were the ghosts. Like there was like, okay, I'm seeing the dead Jedi and I'm seeing the Harry Potter dead ghosts and stuff. Like I don't like that. That's not a favorite of mine. Obi-Wan, okay, whatever. But when Harry Potter was seeing all the dead people, and I was like, okay, come on, guys.
Get to the end.
Get to it.
Wrap it up.
We got stuff to do.
And we've left Rizzo behind because he didn't watch any of the anime.
He was Googling IMDb or something.
I'm looking up some other things, so go ahead.
All right. Well, Rizzo's looking stuff up. I'm going to wander back over to the comments. Hello, Stuart Foley. How are you doing? Phil is saying, yes, the original Star Blazers was 1974.
But in the U.S., it was 7980.
7980. Yeah, he says, and the Captain Starblaze sometimes seemed the way almost played Adama. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gruff, silent, stoic.
Yep.
Sure, why not?
Definitely Adama's based on.
Yep. Yeah, Bruce is like, if this had been an American film, it would have been 2 hours longer for background and exposition. Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, it probably would have.
No, more character development.
It would have been 4 movies if it was.
It would have been 4 movies. Yeah.
And they would fire the wave motion gun at least once per movie.
At least. Minimum.
No, more than what, I mean, yeah, sure. And then they're talking about the rain. All right, guys, glad you're listening to us. Does anybody have any questions or comments about Yamato?
We tend to go far afield on these, don't we?
We do, but that's okay. I have no problems. Yeah, Phil is saying the story is so thick from the original series. It makes the film seem overlong, throws the pacing. Yeah, it does. And it is a really simple story, but if you leave anything out, people are like, no, wait, we needed that one point there because it was important to the story.
Well, okay, so my major critique of the film is you don't really get introduced to any of the Gamelons. All you see is the robot ships. I
agree.
I mean,
the Gamelons had characters. You meet Desla and you sort of meet Starsha, except she's not Starsha. I don't know what she is.
Right. But I mean, there was this guy. He was like a sub commander. He was a wolf pack guy who was after the Yamato for personal reasons as well as because Desloc told him to go.
Did you know this original story was also meant to include Captain Harlock, and then they had to cut it because it was going to be the writers were going to put Harlock in there too, which is kind of interesting to me because Harlock to me is I can't imagine it, but okay, maybe
not being there, but they didn't personalize any of the Gamelons.
No, they didn't. They should have, because when they're fleshed out, they make a much more interesting
bad
Oh,
guy.
absolutely.
Yeah, they were a very nameless enemy.
It was just the bad guy.
Faceless.
Yeah.
It was just-
Yeah.
They were just
Bruce is reminding us, according to IMDb, Disney owned the rights in the 90s and we're going to do live action, only they raised the Arizona. I remember that, Bruce. I remember hearing about that and I remember being like,
Yeah. Ooh, yikes.
no, don't do that. Please
Space
just stick to the
Battleship
original
Arizona?
story. Yeah, the Space
Uh.
Battleship Arizona. No.
Oh, that would have been, and I don't think that would have gone over well.
No. And you know
American-
what? In the
that would-
American, yeah, in the Americanization, they squeezed lines in on purpose that specifically said, this is the Yamato, but we are going to rechristen it and rename it the Argo so that it will be a vessel of hope and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And they made that very specific. They did that on purpose for the American series. I would be very curious to know if they also did that for European versions, or if they just left it Yamato for European versions. But they were, yeah. And I'm going to put you guys a link to a really great background documentary. Let me pull it up here, where they're talking about the producers are talking about how stressed out they knew this thing would go to American audiences. And they're like, we need to demilitarize it. We need to remove so they originally had like chrysanthemums on things. They're like, no, we got to take all of that out. Because, chrysanthemum is the Japanese national emblem. And they had a whole bunch of more militaristic kind of things. They're like, no. When it finally aired in Japan, they had removed all of that and kind of neutralized it because their hope is that it would be a success. And if it was a success, it would go to the States. And they wanted it to be super neutral. In fact, there's a scene at the beginning
Kind of
where
the reverse of
Yeah.
the reverse of what Hollywood does now with the Chinese thing.
sometimes,
You got to
yeah.
neutralize all the movies so they don't criticize the Chinese, so it'll have a market in China.
Here it is. Let me put this link up. If you guys want a really great background on just Yamato in general. Oh, where'd our conversation go? Oh, Facebook. Hello, Facebook. There we go. This is a fantastic documentary or retrospective right there. Yeah, and so they have this scene where they're marching, and it's a military parade. And they're going to and they're gonna go take off, and they're like, oh, we gotta change the music and make it less military and more happy. And they did a whole bunch of stuff to change it because they wanted it to be accepted by American audiences. I don't know. I'd like to think most of us have the respect in us to, or at least the maturity and the diplomacy in us to respect a Japanese story being a Japanese story. Not everything has to be completely completely redone for us. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think America would the smart part of America would get around and over it, but Joe Sixpack would not.
Yeah,
And there's the other part. Yep.
yeah. I mean, that's true. It's hard to, we're not very, as a people.
Also, if you guys
I'd
are
say
at all,
there's a pretty big split between the ones that can accept that for what it is and the ones
yeah. If anyone's interested in the special effects, there's nothing too big on here. It just shows the special effects. But I'll share
Phil
it.
did have a question earlier and about the about how the planet being bombarded was the same.
I don't remember that they made it clear in the cartoon, but it was because they were going to terraform it anyway. So they didn't care if the surface was screwed up.
I got the impression that they liked the radiation, so that's why, like they're.
Yeah, they were human or humanoid. I don't think they could live. Well, I don't know. Well, maybe they.
Well, I mean, in the movie, they didn't really find out what they were. They were those. I mean, were those aliens that were attacking them in the cave? Just they're like soldiers that were more like. I got the impression that they weren't really the actual aliens. They were just like their fodder.
Drones.
Like drones. There you go.
Yeah, they were just the drones.
So
I don't know if they could.
don't really
live
saw
with
them,
it
did you?
or. No, it was Tilly. Shush.
Tilly growling at
I
something.
don't know if they could just live with the radiation or they could get rid of it themselves. I figure if they could tell, hey, humans, come get this thing that gets rid of radiation, they surely have the technology. So maybe they were like, yeah, and then we'll get rid of it and then we'll live it. I don't know.
Well, in Yamato 2199, they want to kill us because they see us as a future threat. I don't think they were particularly after Earth because they have hundreds of planets.
Really? I thought, so for the old series, they were after Earth.
Right. But
my impression was
Yamato 2199 changes that a little
yeah,
bit.
interesting. Yeah, Yamato 2199 changes a bunch of things, but yeah, I'm still gonna check it out. I think that's great.
I think it's worth it.
Roy is saying next gen paid tribute to Yamato in the second season, Contagion.
Oh yeah, the other the second Galaxy class starship was called the
it?
Yamato.
That's the Yamato, you're right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
She blew up because she got a virus.
Yeah. So
Boy,
still
that
had
poor
a bad
Yamato
end.
Poor Yamato has a bad
Bad name.
end
Don't
no matter
name
how-
your ship
Yeah,
Yamato.
don't name your ship that. Might be bad
Like
luck. I don't know.
Titanic. Don't call anything Titanic. Bad
Sue,
luck.
is Tilly growling at thunder? No,
Or
it's not
Bismarck
thunder.
for that matter.
Bismarck.
No, or the Bismarck. Yeah, no. Now you get that song in my head, like we have to sing the Bismarck. Never mind.
Hey, you know, what was it? African Queen. Isn't that what they went? No, it wasn't the Bismarck. They were thinking it was a German World War One. You ever see African Queen?
Yeah.
Humphrey Bogart.
It
Yeah,
was a
that's
German
the-
boat?
Great
Yeah, I
movie.
know the
That was the
African-
It wasn't. It was some kind of ship that they were trying to go. It wasn't the Bismarck.
I don't remember
But
that.
that's much later. It was the World War One era battleship. Anyway, great movie if you haven't.
Oh, the Tirpitz.
I don't remember now. I have to watch. I haven't seen the movie in years. But
Oh,
you know,
no. The African Queen, weren't they after a U-boat? Wasn't there a U-boat
no,
in the
it was
river?
it was a ship that they were going to try to sink. It was like a battleship, or not a battleship, but it was like a cruiser or something that was terrorized.
Interesting. Now I got to go back. And...
Africa. It's a great movie if you ever see it. I mean, if you haven't seen The African Queen.
Yeah, Phil's talking about that doc. It talks a lot about the music. So the music, okay, everyone type now. Who sang the closing credits? Everyone start typing. It's somebody, who sang the end theme? Phil, on that doc I just posted, they talk about the music. They were very, very careful in particular with their music. It ended up being like wildly popular, the soundtrack to this cartoon in Japan. And it was like their best-selling album by leaps and bounds for like years. And they would have nights where they'd have concerts, kind of like the way we have like John Williams concerts where we get together and just listen to Star Wars music, or we all just get together and listen to a whole night of just Star Trek music. They will all get together and have a night of Yamato music. And it's really
Makes
great
sense.
music, actually. It's cool music.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So they're doing that, and which was why it cracked me up. And no one's answering. None of you watched this movie because none of you know who sang the end song. So they're so careful and so protective of their music and who sings their songs and all that. Why did they have this band come
Tommy
to
Tune.
and how what?
Tommy Tune.
No. I'll give you a clue. The name of the song is Love Lives. And I think it played here in the States too.
I don't know. I don't even remember. I can't even imagine it in my head.
It's oh god, now I can see his face and it just went right out of my head. Armageddon. Who sang Armageddon's on there?
Steven Tyler?
Aerosmith. Yeah. Aerosmith. Yes. So at the very end, so the movie ends on him ramming the ship and the thing exploding. That's the end of the movie. Then the credits start, and over the credits you see Nickelback. Yeah, Bruce Playford got it. Steven Tyler. No, Dennis, not Nickelback. Then when the credits play, you see her,
It's never Nickelback.
Yuki, and a little boy, which you assume to be Kodai's kid. And they're on a nice green, so like, okay, yep, they got the planet back. That's great. And while this is going on, Aerosmith is singing, and it's really weird. It's just weird. It's like the end of Armageddon, like overly.
Well, yeah, Armageddon. It's clearly they forced the Aerosmith stuff because Liv Tyler's in the movie. I mean, they did shoehorn some of their songs, although they're great songs. They shoehorned them into places where it didn't really fit.
You guys have so much great music to choose from. So many great Yamato themes. Why did you go with?
Is it on the Japanese version that way, or is it just the American
Yes.
version? It is on the Japanese version.
It's on the Japanese version. Yeah. Because I guess a summer blockbuster needs to have like a big band singing their song. Come on, you want up? Well, quit squirming. Oh my God. She's begging to come up, but then when I go to get her.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that it was that when I watched it.
It took me, I was like, Blow? What? What is this? Why are you doing?
Pretty clear. I wonder, is it Aerosmith or is it just Steven Tyler?
I think it's Aerosmith. but
Okay.
maybe it's not. Maybe it's just Steven Tyler. But yeah, I know. I think it's Aerosmith. And I think that song got airplay here in the States too. I have a very clear memory of that song. Maybe because I watched this movie, like I saw it a long time ago too.
Stupid factoid. He has a house not far from here.
There you go.
He comes every once in a while. He comes to the hospital for stuff. Hospitals.
Methadone.
I don't think that's it. He's short. He's a little guy.
Narcan?
No. Now Kent, be nice.
What? Huh? Wait, you're saying that Steven Tyler didn't take illicit substances?
I'm not saying one. Just I have no idea.
Like even
Oh, yes,
our
you
lead, even our lead actor. So our lead actor was like really big in a boy band. Well, he's like in his 40s now, but he was hot in a boy band back in the day. And then he's had this whole. He's been on the radio and he's been in all kinds of. He's like a really established actor. He's kind of like their version of Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, he's clearly a pretty boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, no, but I mean, it's just you could tell he's like the Japanese version of.
He's good looking, yes.
Yeah.
But so he's like their Justin Timberlake. Even he could have sang something that would have like at least kept it in the right realm. But no, Aerosmith. I don't know why.
Yeah. Again, trying to get your head into the Japanese mindset, but they are, I wonder if it had something to do with they do. I don't know. Say envy's not the right word, but they do enjoy American culture.
Yeah, they use a lot of our stuff.
They love a lot of American things. So it doesn't surprise me that they would put an American artist into their film like that.
Yeah, and they do a lot of, like, if you put the subtitles on and listen to the Japanese, you'll hear a lot of words. Orion Tokugawa always says engine. He says engine all the time. Surely there's a Japanese word for engine, but he never says it. He says engine. And when they put the gun out to shoot the gun, he says it's the targeting scope, and he'll say targetto scope or whatever. And I'm like, well, surely you've got words for target and scope, and you could say it in Japanese. No, we're gonna say targetto scope. I don't know. It's just
that happens a lot in Japanese though, because there are words that they don't have words for.
I wonder.
So they adopt the American.
And I'm just spitballing a little bit here, but a lot of going back again, you go like all the way back to the Second World War and before. A lot of their naval officers went to school at our naval academy.
Yes.
So I wonder
Yamamoto
what they're
did.
doing is they're picking up our terms, and because there's no necessarily an even Japanese translation, they're just using the American word.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe.
I'm just guessing. I don't know, but I do know like a lot of their admirals and stuff, even then during the Second World War, learned naval warfare from our naval academy.
Yamamoto went to college in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, so that's probably where that crossover is coming in.
Well, it exists, in technical words, sure. And if you listen to any Japanese pop song, you're going to hear a ton of American words, or not, of English, I should say English, because they're not specifically American.
Right. Well, there's English and there's American English.
I speak American. I don't speak English.
Yeah, I speak two languages, English and bad English.
The English and bad English. I had a reason to start down this path, and now I don't remember what it was.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Welcome to Sci-Fi Distilled, where we always get derailed.
And the points don't matter.
Everything's made up, and the points don't matter. So this was a fun movie. 2 hours fly by. Even if you don't know what the hell's going on, it's still, fun enough to watch.
It's eye candy. It's massive eye candy.
Yeah, I mean it's entertainment if you just take it for what it is. If you're not like Kent, where you've been a fan since you were a kid of watching the cartoon or whatever, and you just want to watch the movie, a science fiction movie that you got to kill a couple hours, watch it. You know what I'm saying? Just watch it and take it for what it is.
And if you are a fan, watch it. They did a really, really good job cramming a ton of detail in there. Good job.
Yeah.
Takazuma, what's his name? What's our director's name? Hang on. I lost you. Where did you go, director?
Say what?
I wouldn't even probably try to pronounce his name. But
I can't find the live action.
Hang on, I'll find it. I got it right here.
There it is. Because the guy who directed it also was the VFX director.
Yamazaki.
Yes, Takashi Yamazaki. Good job, Yamazaki. What else have you done? I want to watch your other movies.
Oh yeah. Or just watch an Akira film, Akira Kurosawa,
Or just
That'll-
watch some Kurosawa.
because that's
And look
they
for
lift.
Captain Okita because he was in 2 of them.
Yes.
You're assuming that he's done other science fiction shows. So.
Yeah, good point. Here, let's pull it up again.
Parasite Part 1 and 2. That's got to be science fiction.
That's got to be science fiction.
Unless it's about like some guy that moves into your house and doesn't want to leave. Fueled, The Man Called Pirate.
R.
Again, I think some of these are just the translations don't quite fit. The Fighter Pilot, we don't know, that could be anything.
The
So,
Eternal Zero.
some interesting.
All right, interesting.
One thing I
Right.
will say about this series, though, it didn't have giant monsters like
No,
No
like-
giant kaiju.
no kaiju.
Oh, well.
Yes,
no kaiju.
no kaiju kind of stuff. No
you
There
tentacle.
were
guys
some
know-
in the animated.
Yeah, no
Yes.
tentacle monsters.
Did you guys know there was actually a movie called Atlantic Rim? Like I know there was Pacific Rim. I know that kaiju. Yes, I know.
No,
But there
Pacific
was
Rim and
also
Pacific
a
Rim
long
2.
time ago. There was a movie called Atlantic Rim.
Did it have kaiju?
I don't know. Let's find out. I don't think so.
Well, then there's no point in watching it.
2013
so my-
low budget.
one of my connections, though, to this, not connections.
Oh, it did have kaiju types. It has big things.
Oh, well, then I'll have to watch it.
It is a B movie or C, possibly D movie. So yeah, we should. Yeah.
It keeps going down the list. So, but
I started Z and worked my way up.
my thing with this, it's funny because the whole ship being based on the original battleship. That's what I keep going back to, because naval battles, particularly World War II, are, I don't want to say I'm a buff, but I find them very interesting. I read a lot of books about those battles. So it's like, and to me, it's just all I kept thinking about was that's where my brain kept going back to.
You kept going to World War II.
The Battle of Philippines Sea, the Philippine Sea, and stuff like that, and all those, how basically the
Leyte Gulf.
Leahy Gulf was a great one. I have a great book if somebody's interested about that whole, and the carriers and how basically that the battleship, not to get too much into history, but that was the end of the era of the battleship. The Japanese had put all their eggs into that battleship basket.
Yep.
And
So
even
did the
their own
Germans.
admirals were saying battleships are not the power anymore. It's all aircraft carriers.
Aircraft carriers, yeah.
And that's what that's why the Americans just they could keep the carriers far away from the battleship and just send planes, wave after wave of planes after them. And the battleships were helpless. Those big guns didn't do anything against aircraft.
Yeah.
So it was just
Because
They were specifically for shore bombardment.
right. They were,
Yeah.
and basically the old style, like you see in Pirates of the Caribbean, of broadside battling other battleships, just pounding each other, with big guns, and that wasn't modern warfare anymore.
Yeah.
I
Because it was.
Unless you watch the movie Battleship, which is one of those Z movies.
that movie.
Oh, the one with the aliens.
You
Yes.
know, the aliens
Guns.
come and they have to refit the
Big guns,
ship.
yeah. Which
It's
again,
in a museum, but we're just gonna go ahead
again,
and
it
fire
was a
up.
silly movie. It was definitely a silly
fun.
movie, and it was certainly a weird take on the game, which is what it was supposed to be.
But visually it was stunning.
It was
It was.
entertaining though, right? I mean, you watched it, what was it, an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and you were like, okay, but it falls, to me, that one falls into the same thing as Pacific Rim. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous when you
Right.
watch it.
Yeah,
The only
it's
reason you're
another
watching
battleship.
Pacific
And the
Rim-
aliens had those
Strictly entertaining.
dome things, and they were.
Yeah.
And I remember Rihanna. Rihanna was in it.
Yeah,
and-
right. That was
like-
like her one film.
Yeah, her one movie.
Not more, but
And they
And
just
the army guy with the artificial legs
Yeah.
right.
was a real army guy
The
with
real
artificial
army guy
legs.
with legs.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a fun, kind of a fun movie. It wasn't a great movie.
It was a fun movie. I liked it.
Great.
That's why you watch Pacific Rim, because it
That's
has giant
true. I
robots
like
and giant
Pacific
You
kaiju.
know what? We need to
second
put
one wasn't
Pacific Rim on
great.
the list too.
I saw
Oh,
the second
yeah.
one. The first one was better, way better than the second one. But
We can put Pacific and Atlantic Rim on the
Yeah, I'll have to look up this Atlantic Rim one because
It's like a B. It's worse than B movie. It's a bad movie.
it's
And then
worse
what
than
about
B.
Battleship?
What gets worse than B? We're into like what? Like Ed Wood's level of film, or
We're into film school films. We're into fan film films.
Hey, stop.
Ed Wood was the king of suspension of disbelief because
All right.
No, Roger Corman.
you think so?
Let's move back
absolutely.
His movies were worse than Ed Wood's films.
Wow.
There had to have been.
No, there's no worse films than no. Plan 9 from Outer Space is the worst movie ever made. That's what makes
True,
it
but Toxic Avenger
it's pretty bad, but Toxic Avengers doesn't
See,
take it.
Toxic Avenger, I kind of put in with the Evil Dead crowd.
The
Like,
difference
they're
with
kind of
Toxic Avenger is they knew they were making a piece of crap.
right.
They knew they were making it was pokes fun. Ed Wood thought he was making his opus,
Was making
his,
art. Yeah.
Citizen Kane, and it was horrible. It was so bad.
You need to wash your mouth out now because you said Citizen Kane and Plan 9 from Outer Space in the same sentence.
Well, but Ed Wood was a huge fan of Orson Welles,
oh,
so there was
okay.
there's that connection there. I mean, he wanted to be Orson Welles.
Yeah, but my point is, you said Plan 9 from Outer Space and Citizen Kane in the same sentence. You have to pay Rizzo.
they each have their own.
Yeah, they do. Bruce says Atlantic Rim got 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. 10%.
Wow,
That's my kind of movie.
What category is that?
Is it on like YouTube or something, or cheap Canadian bootleg TV?
I've never seen it anywhere. I didn't even know it existed.
Netflix might have it. Netflix has everything.
No, they really don't actually. But
It was my research for this thing that kind of that put it on my radar for some reason. I don't know why.
well, I get picky. I'd rather watch a movie I've seen 100 times than a really bad movie.
Well,
But you might discover a gem.
You might,
we
and I
might.
have. It's come along. You pull out some of these movies that I'm going through some of these old stuff like from the 80s that I hadn't seen, and I'm like, this is a really good movie.
Battle Beyond the Stars.
Yeah, that was 70s, but yeah, with John Boy. I just watched that relatively recently. And
Really?
yeah,
You got to do that on Roy's
like
show.
maybe like a year ago. I say recently, but when I was
Roy ought to
watching,
do.
what I was just watching, which was I've forgotten about, which is a great movie, was Enemy Mine. I told Mary
That was
to put
very
on the
good.
list. I
That
said,
was
Mary
good.
Beth,
Lou
put that on
Gossett
the
was
list.
robbed when he didn't get the Oscar for that.
Yeah, he should have.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, it's in a lot of ways. I'm watching again. I'm like, this is like a remake of Robinson Crusoe in space on Mars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Darmok and Gelada Tanagra.
Darmok
I mean,
and-
it's it's got a lot of common themes, and it's really good film. We're gonna do that one.
We will.
Enemy
We will.
Enemy
If you
Mine.
haven't
Yeah,
watched
I'm up
it-
for that.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Enemy Mine, go watch that one. 1985.
Good. Let's talk about some good science fiction. Some of the best from the 70s. Roy is going to be doing coming up here, including one of my favorite films. This Friday, Roy and Ross are going to do Westworld, the Westworld movie, not the HBO reboot.
Yul Brynner?
With Yul Brynner.
yeah.
Yul
That's
Brynner,
good.
who I can only think of it singing and dancing.
As a kid, watched it recently again and went, "Wow, this is not a good movie." I mean, it was just very campy.
Oh, the Westworld?
Yeah,
Oh, really? I thought that was okay.
it was okay. It just wasn't how I remembered it. From when I remembered as a kid, I was scared because Yul Brynner coming after him, he was so focused. I mean, he was. And
Logan's
I
Run
watched
did that.
I
for me,
just
too.
watched it like a little while back. I actually have the Blu-ray, and I'm like, this is kind of silly.
Really?
I
Okay,
went
need to go
back and watched
rewatch.
Logan's-
I
I
like Logan.
rewatched Logan's Run, and
That
I did the
holds
same
up, though.
thing.
Logan's Run holds
Logan
up.
Run's a great movie.
All right, but anyway, back to Roy. So Roy's
Right.
doing Westworld the movie on Friday, but I'm super excited because on Sunday, from Westworld the new HBO reboot, he has Jimmy Simpson, who played the young cowboy in the black hat. He doesn't have a character name. It was just it was just black hat guy, right?
He did have a character name.
Did he have a character
He
name?
was the one that was one of the androids.
No, he's a real man.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different guy. So, and if you really want to waste your time, go see Future World. Or not good.
Is that a Westworld spinoff?
It is. It's the sequel to. It's the same universe and everything. It happens. It's a sequel to Westworld. Different, you know, the robots don't go crazy, but it's kind of it's got Peter Fonda in it. It's not that good.
Also, Jimmy was in, if you guys saw Black Mirror and you saw the USS Callister episode, which was the Star Trek episode, he was in that. And he plays, in Westworld, Ed Harris plays the old version and he plays the young version of this Black Hat character.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about now.
Sorry, did I lose you there? I'm sorry.
No,
I couldn't think of the character's name.
When you said Ed Harris.
It's Ed Harris and then Jimmy Simpson.
Yeah, okay. Oh, great. That's cool. That's pretty good.
That's super cool. I'm super excited. And then coming
He's
up,
also in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
yes, he's in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he had a recurring role on The Late Show as some comedy sketch thing. I don't know. He's around. He's around. You'll know him as soon as you see him. You're gonna recognize him. And then the next Friday, they're doing one of my favorite movies. Roy and Ross are doing Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That's a good one.
I love it. I was like, are you guys gonna do it? Because if you're not gonna do it, I'm stealing it because I love that movie. That is a fantastic movie. So Ross and Roy have a fantastic lineup coming up for the next. Oh, and then that Sunday, ours truly it's Rizzo and myself, and we will be talking about Forbidden Planet, another iconic movie from 1954, 53. I want to say 4.
Directly responsible for large swaths of Star Trek.
Directly responsible for large, and there's Robbie. Yep. One of the few robots who doesn't turn evil at the end. Like they always go bad. He
I
didn't.
was
He
waiting
stayed
for it to
good.
happen though, and it didn't. I was
Stayed
disappointed.
good the whole movie, yeah. And then what are we doing next week? Phil, if you're still watching, this is your official reminder. Next week, we're going to take, because I got to remind him, we're going to do something just a tiny bit different, and we're going to wander over into the fantasy realm, wander away from the
Another
sci-fi
Make Me Watch.
into the, and it is another Make Me Watch because Rizzo had never seen it. Neither has Phil. Phil, you
See
have
what?
1 week to watch The Princess Bride.
Somebody who hasn't seen The Princess Bride?
I know, right?
That's un-American.
Me and Phil.
Right? How can you guys have not seen The Princess Bride?
You know, it's one of those things where people keep telling me to watch something. The more you tell me I got to watch something, the less I
You
want.
resist watching it? Yeah. Yeah.
But
Prepare
no,
to be
I-
pleasantly surprised.
The funniest thing is, I quote the movie all the time that I've never seen.
That's what Phil said too. Phil's like, I know all the jokes already because it's an infinitely quotable movie.
Yeah.
Which now I'm worried. Now I'm gonna be like, oh, maybe you guys aren't gonna like it because it's not gonna hit you the way it hit us who've seen it.
Well,
Like, yes,
I think it'll be fine. I mean, I like Billy Crystal, and you know, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, Billy Crystal's awesome. It's a great movie. It's really well cast. I hope you like it. So, and then guys, we're gonna end on that lovely, sweet. Not tonight. We're not gonna end, but next Wednesday we're gonna end on that
Just
lovely.
taking a little sabbatical.
And we're gonna take a little tiny hiatus because someone's going to Maine.
I got vacation.
Someone has vacation. We will let Rizzo go to Maine. We're gonna.
Do you
take a
have to
little-
quarantine at either end?
No,
Yeah, you
New
have to
Hampshire-
quarantine in Maine.
Nope, New Hampshire is a welcome state.
Huh.
Only the Massachusetts people need to quarantine or prove that they don't have COVID.
You have to when you come here. You have to quarantine too.
So,
So don't come here.
I pass through there all the time, but it's just passing.
Yeah.
Oh, Maine, you don't have to unless you're. I think actually all the New England states and New York, Maine's okay with just Massachusetts. The only one. They singled you guys out.
And Massachusetts and New
I
York
think because
are
of
like
Boston, right?
being strict.
I
and everyone
guess
else
I
is
was surprised because Connecticut, I guess it's dropping as well. So
Connecticut's leading the way right now. They're doing really
yeah,
well.
they're doing pretty well. So and New Hampshire, we're still only at like a few thousand, like 6,000 cases or something like
Seen
that.
it either. Roy, you gotta watch Princess
Yeah,
Bride.
but there's only
Everybody watch
8,000 people
Princess
in the
Bride.
whole state.
No, that's
Our
true.
whole pop, where we have the most. The funny thing is, since we're on the subject, most of our population is in the southern part near the Mass border,
Yeah, near me, near Nashville. Yeah,
and that's where all our cases
less
are.
populated as you go north.
We're very, yeah, we're
You
like,
guys want to hear something?
like with northern New York and stuff like that. Vermont, we're kind of more spread.
Yeah.
So.
You want to hear something crazy? Massachusetts and the entire nation of Canada are neck and neck in the numbers Right now, Massachusetts has 114,000 confirmed cases. Canada has 113,000.
We have like 6,000 in the state.
Yeah, you do. Massachusetts has 8,000 and something deaths. Canada has 8,000 and something deaths. Like the state of Massachusetts and the entire country of Canada are like right like this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, we're gonna win, damn it.
We're gonna win.
We are? When's that
Getting
gonna
better.
happen?
It's getting better. We're not going politics. Let's keep the politics out of it.
All right, all right.
Put your mask on. Shut up.
All right. So everybody, all right. So anyway, Roy's
I have a
got
tie-dyed mask.
kick-ass stuff coming up. We're doing Princess Bride next week before vacation, and then we're taking suggestions for when we come back in September because we don't want to quit. We're having fun. This is a great way to pass a pandemic, and we suspect it will still be pandemic in September. So.
And some of you guys that are following the Facebook page, we have some the t-shirts available. We're not making. They're just for fun.
We just want a t-shirt.
If you want a shirt or a sweatshirt or something, feel free.
Since you've had so many people guest hosting, do the guest hosts get free merch?
Yeah, no.
We wish.
Everybody, there's 15% off for the next couple weeks off.
15% off.
You just order it. We get like a little tiny bit of money, which helps me cover some of the costs of but it's not like not telling anybody to go out and buy anything. If you want
it's
to,
just
great.
for fun. We just wanted t-shirts.
Totally fine. We just wanted t-shirts for ourselves.
We just wanted our own t-shirts.
So feel free to buy a SciFi Distilled t-shirt if you want one.
But we're learning.
That's it.
We're
That's all
learning
my
about
plug.
this
I'm not going to
whole
bug about it anymore.
No, we won't bug you about it, but we are learning because I didn't know how this whole thing worked. And I was like giving Rizzo suggestions, like, there, I did it. I'm like, no, wait, we're still in the research phase.
There, whatever.
But now we get t-shirts. So it's all good.
So, anyway, I guess that's about wraps it up. We'll see you next week with Captain Phil. I did have a graphic, but we won't probably put it up. You'll see it
sorry.
online.
Look at the production values, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, well,
Yeah,
that's
that's
how we
why
work
no one
around
buys
here,
our
Kent. Have you not been around enough or not? Come on now. So anyway, good night, guys. Thank you all for coming.
Good
Thanks
night,
everybody online
guys.
for coming, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching it with an open
Bye.
mind, Rizzo.